If we look at our reflection close enough, will we like what we learn about ourselves? Find out the answer to this and much more on this week's episode of The Lowdown on Lower Decks. Guten Tag, bonjour, buenos dias a todos nuestros amables oyentes. Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Pavon, and along with my co-host Josh Pritchett, we are here once again to bring you the Lowdown on Lower Decks. Good morning, Josh.
Look there, Chris. How are you doing today?
Josh, I am doing fine because myself, along with Rocky Top, Val Nason, we finally vanquished yesterday our Florida Gator foe, and I am just smiling edge to edge.
Oh, that's great. Congratulations on that. Yeah, UVA beat Old Dominion, but that's not really bragging. I'm sad to say. Like by the skin of our teeth. So yeah, I'm happy. I'm living vicariously through you, my friend, as always.
Thank you. 38-33, Gator fans.
Oh, yeah, that is a significant win. That's a great
Do you
win.
see a monkey on my shoulder? No, because it's finally been lifted.
I take it this has been an intense thing for a while, bud.
It's been a while since we could beat them, so it was sweet as candy.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to the Tennessee fans and on the win. Um, so we have got a lot to unpack from this week's Lower Decks, though, don't we?
We do. I mean, it literally was a look inside of yourself and see if you would like what you see. But we will talk about that and much more later. Let's dive into the recap.
Yes.
So, our intrepid crew of the USS Cerritos is at Tulgana 4, where we have two storylines going on at the same time. The first one is it's recruitment time. For any of you who are wondering how Starfleet gets its recruits, well, just like with many organizations, they have booths. And Mariner really doesn't want to go down with Boimler to do the booth, but Ronson makes it clear that she doesn't do this, and if she steps anywhere out of line from that booth, she will end up at Starbase 80, which is enough to shake her into yes, sir, I will do this. Meanwhile, you have concurrently Tandy tries to help Rutherford out because he's having nightmares, memories he doesn't remember, and she clears a memory cache, which literally causes him to become a new man, and he sees his reflection of himself in a glass, and it is someone he totally doesn't recognize, but the reflection, he is now the reflection. The person in charge of his body says, well, I'm you. Like, what am I doing about this California class? The cells are terrible. And then you go back to the scene where you have Mariner is trying to get people to come to the booth because on top of sending her down there, Ransom has said, you better come back with a long list of people who want to join Starfleet. And we get to see a parade of different types of aliens that we know from Star Trek, and she's not having much luck, partly because she is getting a very hard time from the Independent Architects Guild representative, who's right next to her, and anytime someone shows an interest in joining Starfleet, she has some really sharp zingers, such as, yeah, joining Starfleet, that'll get you 7 years in a windowless room. Which is a reference to how all Star Trek seasons seem to go for 7 episodes. And meanwhile, all the new Rutherford, let's put it that way, wants to do is get out of there. And he runs into Ensign Barnes, who's the trill that he's got on some dates before, and really upsets her. And, through interactions with the real Rutherford, who's now a reflection, manages to find Tandy, and Tandy immediately senses something is very wrong here. Josh, do you want to take it from there?
Yes. So Tandy is back in the work area, Shuttle Bay area, where they're usually rebuilding that shuttlecraft, and Tandy realizes that something is wrong with Rutherford because he's acting strange. And then he starts yelling at his reflection in the window of the shuttlecraft. Tandy quickly realizes that her friend is been taken over by some sort of external force, which is an interesting commentary that after 2 centuries, it's like, oh, no mystery here. Your friend starts acting violent and weird, clearly possessed by aliens. And okay, that's sort of a very weird 17th century way of looking at it, but okay. So evil Rutherford goes running through the Jeffries tubes, trying to escape the security team, who are trying to capture him and get him to sick bay. He makes his way first to the transporter room, where Shanks catches him and says, "Hey, you can't beam down to the planet. It has an ion field that makes transporting down impossible." But that's not Rutherford's goal. He transports himself to the captain's yacht, which, as you will recall, is a larger shuttlecraft that is fully warp capable. And good guy Rutherford starts hitting himself in the implant again in an attempt to slow him down, because Shanks has figured out what he's up to, gets to the captain's yacht and stuns him. That puts both Rutherfords down, and then they can get up to sickbay, where the doctor has determined that that there's a huge amount of brain activity going on inside Rutherford's head. And it's a matter of time when someone's going to wake up, and they'll figure out which Rutherford it is who's going to wake up. Meanwhile, back down at the recruiting booth, they are running into all kinds of characters we've seen before. We've seen the conspiracy guild people who want to know when the Starfleet's going to tell the truth about what happened to Captain Sisko, and will they confirm or deny about the alien bugs crawling into some high-ranking Starfleet officers. Boimler says, "Oh, that's just a conspiracy theory," and which is making reference to the actual episode "Conspiracy" from season 1 of Star Trek: The Next Generation, where that actually did happen, where some very highly intelligent alien bugs took over various Starfleet admirals and captains in an attempt to take over the entire Federation. Mariner says, "No, I think that actually did happen." So, and they walk off. Finally, this group of deep space scientists, the types we always keep running into, who go to some unexplored planet, start doing some research, and then the Enterprise or Voyager, somebody has to rush in and save them because they've gotten overwhelmed. They come in and they start making fun of Boimler and Mariner's uniforms. Then they pull off Boimler's rank pin, and Boimler just hulks out. Okay, guys. I mean, he shoves the table over. He starts screaming at everybody that's been giving them hell all day. And he says to them, "Hey, we don't want to have to save you people from the Klingons and the Borg. We just want to explore freaking space, but it's the right thing to do." And then he yells at the conspiracy people, "Hey, you guys aren't seeking the truth. You hate the truth because it doesn't fit in with your worldview." And, and then he's runs into the gamesters we saw way back in season 1 of Deep Space Nine. It's like, all you people want to do is trap people in games. Stop people trapping people in games. And meanwhile, the archaeologist who was hassling Mariner and trying to get her angry, her name is Batera, runs into a nearby museum and steals a whole bunch of stuff. Apparently, this was her plan, was to antagonize Boimler and Mariner to the point that something like this would happen, and she would have a distraction to go in. But there is a bright side to all this, because apparently a number of people are so impressed with Boimler's confidence and his willingness to stand up and fight for his beliefs, suddenly want to sign up for Starfleet because, hey, does Starfleet give me this level of confidence? And Mariner's like, yeah, it does. Okay, sign me up. And so that was kind of it. And Ransom was very impressed with the fact that they did manage to get a pad full of contact information and meet their recruitment quota. So Mariner is kind of out of the doghouse for now. So, Chris, you want to wrap up the A plot for us?
Certainly. So, Rutherford, current Rutherford, evil Rutherford, encounters within the realm of his own mind the old Rutherford from 10 years ago, and they strike an agreement that they're going to have a race to determine who gets to go back to the body and control it. And it is revealed that the let's call him the alt Rutherford from 10 years ago used to make money by racing near the Romulan neutral zone, which is a big no-no. So you can make whatever you want in the subconscious. So he builds, being alt Rutherford, this small but like really fancy looking hot rod of a spaceship to win the race. And Rutherford builds the Delta Flyer, which is fantastic to see once again after all these years. And he creates a race course to the Romulan neutral zone, and he says, you know, you're on your own if you run into a Romulan, because this is apparently very realistic race scenario. And so they start to race, and it seems like the alt Rutherford has the upper hand, and he's going to win the race. He's going to go back, and he's going to have the body. And all of a sudden, a Romulan star cruiser appears, and it's like, holy crap! And he starts attacking alt Rutherford, who's in the lead. And you see here that our Rutherford has an ace up his sleeve, which is, since he can create anything he wants, he brings his close friends, Mariner, Boimler, Tandy, with him to help manage the Delta Flyer. And not only does he manage to win the race, he manages to save Alt Boimler from being destroyed by the Romulans. And Alt Rutherford acknowledges that he won the race, and he says, you should go ahead and go back and take the body. He's badly injured. But before they part ways, Alt Rutherford remembers how he got the implant, and you see an extended scene of how he injures himself trying to create a new and faster engine. And he's taken to some scientists, and you see some shadowy person come in and say, yeah, erase everything. And they say, well, that's going to be like 10 years of stuff. He's going to become a whole new personality. And it's like, yeah, I don't want anyone to remember, and especially him, what happened here. So some big macro Star Trek mystery still at work. And so he literally goes into a ray of light, and the next thing you see is that he's waking up, and Tandy's very happy, and he has control of the body again. And then we close out by, there's a scene where, because Boimler is in the brig now, it's up to Mariner to like log the day's entry, and she gets a call from Petra Aberdeen. And Petra Aberdeen says, I asked around about you. I'm really impressed. It was thanks to the distraction I managed to get the Grand Nagus staff back. But if Starfleet ever becomes too hard on you, or the regulations build up on you, give me a call. And you see her hand on the tablets is about to hit delete for the contact number, but instead she hits save, which is perhaps a herald of things to come in towards the end of Lower Decks. And scene.
Yes. So, all in all, a fantastic episode. Very much Lower Decks. A lot of humor, and a lot of callbacks to earlier Star Trek episodes. Because we have seen these, the conspiracy people and the gamesters and all these other people before in Trek. So it does make me kind of wonder, and we can get into this more in the as we go along here today. What other jobs are there available other than being in Starfleet? I mean, all we've ever really seen is Starfleet and working at Ben's dad's restaurant in New Orleans, or being a writer, or working at Quarks.
You can own a vineyard.
Yeah. Apparently, we have a couple of vineyards. We have the raisin vineyard and the wine vineyard.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. I mean, I guess if those float your boat, I guess those are job options. Uh,
So let's get into the good, the bad, and the gorn.
yes, definitely.
Um, so the good, I really like how characters are remembered and there's a continuity throughout Lower Decks. For example, we hadn't seen Ensign Barnes in a while, but we see her, and there's an acknowledgement that she and Rutherford went out on a few dates. So I like how characters that we've seen before aren't just tossed away. Like, they tend to return. I really also liked, at the end of last season's finale, we saw the glimpse of Rutherford having these memories that he didn't know about. You know, and now we get to see what that was all about. So you see that small things in previous episodes are not just left to die or forgotten. I mean, they come back and they end up playing a role. So that's a huge credit, I think, to the writers.
Yeah, I think the fact that hey, we're not one and done on a lot of stuff. We do bring things back. I mean, Lower Decks is certainly a lot more episodic than either Picard or Discovery, but it does have recurring plot lines like Next Generation did, and other TV shows have had. So like Jennifer the Andorian, we had a call back with her a couple weeks ago, and then like you were saying about Rutherford's on again, off again relationship with this other ensign, that was, yeah, that was that was good. So things are not completely forgotten. And I don't think like you said, I don't think we've seen the end of Petra. I don't think we've seen the end of some of the characters we met at the booth. And I think obviously, yeah, there's going to be, we're going to keep wondering what's going on here with Sam and these memories he has, and who, actually, who, was the earlier version of himself building that engine for somebody else, and is that why his memory had to be erased, or what's going on here? There's still something shady going on here that Rutherford is not completely sure of, but he's really ready to find out, and he's really happy to. So,
I also liked, speaking of callbacks, the character of Petra Aberdeen and her being part of the Independent Archaeologists Guild. I thought was a huge callback to Voss from Star Trek: The Next Generation. The Indiana Jones type archaeologist who's not part of Starfleet, who will bend the rules a bit when needed, and just like she was sort of the counterpart to Picard, just follow the rules and do things a certain way, the Starfleet way. I think she's sort of positioning now to introduction this character to give Mariner an alternative. Like you said, like what other jobs are there besides Starfleet? Well, perhaps one of these could be being an independent archaeologist. I think this is heading. I don't think we've seen the last of Petra. Perhaps we will get her in another episode to talk a little bit about her history with the USS Victory. But I think we're seeing like, aside from like perhaps getting kicked out of Starfleet, there might be a third alternative, to quote Kirk, for Mariner to consider towards the end of this season.
yeah, because certainly has, you know, uh, Mariner talked about last episode when they were, when they were trying to get that room, that it was best to enjoy their time together now, because Boimler and Tendi and Rutherford were all going to probably get promoted. Well, actually, no, Boimler was going to probably get killed
Get
early
killed.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, for being too brave for his own good. Rutherford and Tendi were going to get promoted, and Mariner was just going to get drummed out of Starfleet. I don't know if that's just a hint of things to come, or maybe that's just something that's being thrown out there. We do know that Mariner was at one point a lieutenant. But then she got demoted back to ensign and got stuck on the Cerritos because she has this inability to follow the regs, and that she wants to play by her own rules, and that's not always acceptable. but at the same time, she's stuck with Starfleet, even though she probably could have just quit at any time. But yeah, certainly Petra is giving her an alternative that she has not considered. Is maybe because she doesn't make mention in this episode. I have an advanced degree in xenohistory. Why am I running a recruitment booth? And it's I think part of it is, and I can't help but wonder, is Starfleet for some reason, and we've never really seen this because usually I've usually thought Starfleet was really good at this. Why have they not been making use of these talents that she clearly has? I mean, yeah, okay, she has a tendency to get herself into trouble, but but she's incredibly brave. She's really smart. She apparently is very good at dealing with other cultures. Why not make more use of that? Instead of letting always having her on a razor thin edge of being booted out of Starfleet forever. It doesn't make sense.
Well, what was particularly interesting, I thought, of this episode was the juxtaposition and role reversal towards the end of the episode, where you see that it's Mariner trying to be calm and collected and like, Boimler, control yourself, let's not get provoked. Of course, it's because he's afraid of Ransom Zedek that do not step out of this booth. But it was fun to see Boimler, who's typically controlled, just like totally lose it and just go out and just like, he causes a ruckus, which unexpectedly benefits Mariner's mission of recruiting people. So I thought that was interesting. But my favorite thing of this episode, Josh, my favorite thing was the Delta Flyer. Like,
Yeah.
holy crap, we finally get to see the Delta Flyer again and doing what it was intended to do, to race. We haven't seen the Delta Flyer in literally decades.
Yeah.
There's been no reference to it in any of the other trucks that have come since. Was it forgotten? Was it mothballed? No, it is. The specs exist someplace because Rutherford pulled it from someplace. It is still there. It touched the heart here, like seeing the Delta Flyer once again in action.
Oh yeah, I missed the Delta Flyer. That was a sweet ship, and I love the episode when they created that, when they introduced it, and it became such a wonderful part of the Voyager mythology. It's better than a runabout. It's like a micro space. It's like a micro starship on its own, that meets the needs. And I, just going through the books, I know the books aren't canon, but in the books, the Delta Flyer is generally a widely used space vessel in Starfleet. That when Voyager got back to the Alpha Quadrant, Starfleet engineers poured over the Delta Flyer and were like, "Oh, we need to mass produce these. These things meet all of our needs." And yeah, it was sweet to see it though back in action on the screen again. And what I also loved about that scene, in particular, Chris, is the fact that old Rutherford, he was always like, "Oh, I can do this. I'm a loner. I'm an outlaw. I'm a bad boy." And new Rutherford is like, "No, I need my pals, and we do this as a team." And the Delta Flyer is meant to be, a team vessel, and that's how our Rutherford wins, is being on the team. And I think that's another thing that seems to run through this episode, is that it's all about teamwork. And it's about that in every episode, really, because it always comes out of these four characters working together to save the day. It isn't just the Kirk show. It's all about, hey, we got to do this together. We all bring a skill set to the table, and new Rutherford gets that he's not going to do this on his own. He's going to do this with his friends, as always. And I think that was a great scene. And I did love how they did the sort of the mind meld thing. This callback to Star Trek 2 and 3, the whole remember, and like old Rutherford is uploading his memories or his Katra to new Rutherford, and so there's still a lot more mystery there. We're not complete with that story arc, but yeah, we definitely added some layers. So, what else do we think about this episode, Chris?
Well, let's touch upon the bad, and this is going to be. I'm being a little picky here, but we see the captain's yacht again. This is the second time we've seen the captain's yacht. The first time being, the Cerritos captain's yacht. The first time being at the finale of last season. When are they going to take it out? I mean, now twice we've seen the captain's yacht. Twice it stayed like in dry dock. When are we going to see this ship taken out?
I think it's one of these situations where, okay, because remember in TNG, if you go back to the spec books, we had a captain's yacht. We never saw Picard actually use it
In the
in
movies,
the
we
entire
did.
7 years. The
Okay.
only time we saw it was in Star Trek Insurrection, one of the movies, and that was on the Enterprise E. And if you notice, it is the same model of ship, obviously. For those of you who don't know what we mean, the captain's yacht is a special spacecraft that's designated for the use of the ship's captain for certain missions. It's a warp capable vessel. It's got a few more goodies on it than a standard shuttlecraft. But to be honest with you, Chris, I'll take a Delta Flyer over a captain's yacht any day.
Love seeing the Delta Flyer, but we keep on seeing the captain's yacht. It's not being used, and like at some point, stop teasing us. You've got to take that ship out.
Yeah, we would like to see the captain's yacht put some miles on it. Yeah, get it out there and let's fly it around, see what it can really do. You know.
I thought that Alt Rutherford, if he shares some of the knowledge with Rutherford, at least the technical skills, he maybe would have realized he couldn't beam down to the planet. Though I did love the judo chop. That was very Kirk.
I was actually thinking that judo chop was kind of a callback to the episode City on the Edge of Forever, where McCoy comes up behind Transporter Chief Kyle in that episode, knocks him out, and then activates the transporter beam to beam him down to the planet to escape the Enterprise. But yeah, no, it's also definitely a very Kirk thing too.
It's also, and I'm going to age myself here, it's also a very Austin Powers thing.
Yeah, judo chop.
Judo chop.
Yeah, baby.
Was there anything bad for you from the episode?
I kind of maybe I nitpick a little bit here, but I thought that okay, like we were saying, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of other job options. I mean, that obviously we know the Federation does not live in poverty, but I'm sure there are other jobs. We're just joking here about that. I think I would have liked to have seen, what other kind of career path someone could take in the 24th century, other than just Starfleet or being an independent person. That would have been interesting. I'd like to spend some more time with that.
Yeah, there should have been like a scientist booth.
Yeah. Though I wondered, why did we create a whole new character in Petra? Why didn't we just bring back Vosh? I mean, did the actress who played Vosh just didn't want to come back and do the voiceover, or what was going on there?
I mean, who knows? I mean, we were lucky enough that the actress who played Dr. Brahms came back with her voice 2 episodes ago.
Yeah.
I also thought they should have had the actress who did Voss come back to do the voice. Oh, just be Vosh. I mean, herself. You don't know what that contract negotiations. I mean, perhaps he asked for too much. Perhaps they just thought, oh, we'll just go with another voice for this character. I don't know, but I am in complete agreement with you that it would have made more sense if you're going to bring back Dr. Brahms. You could have brought back Voss, unless, of course, there was some idea that, well, if you bring back this character, then people are going to start asking where she is in Picard season 3, and maybe they just wanted to sidestep that.
Yeah. Yeah, that is something maybe they just didn't want to deal with that. But also just, you get a different character who's a kind of a contrast to Mariner who so far doesn't really want to leave Starfleet, and we've got this other person who was in Starfleet, decided to leave it and become an independent archaeologist that's free from Starfleet regulations and can do what she wants.
I mean, it could be that it isn't maybe that perhaps he doesn't want to leave Starfleet, but see, just like we're talking right now, she doesn't know what is there outside of Starfleet. Like, what would she do? And all of a sudden, you see someone saying, like, "Hey, I was Starfleet just like you, and this is what you could do." So I think we're gonna get a lot more mileage out of this.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that Mariner's going to start wondering, is this all that I am? Is there nothing more? As Spock would say. Um,
Yeah.
you know,
So, um, very little else to say about the episode I thought was bad. I mean, overall, I liked it a lot. I mean, it was like, it wasn't a mirror universe episode, but it's probably the closest we could get
yeah,
without being mirror.
yeah, and I think that's good because I think a lot of fans have felt like after the first few seasons of Discovery that and also season 2 of Picard, we're done with mirror universes for a while. I think people would just like to put those on the shelf and just not think about them for a while.
I want to say that it makes sense that you would have illegal drag races at the Romulan neutral zone because that's one area where Starfleet is not going to be patrolling. So you could sort of get away with it, and it's an expansive region of space. But on the other hand, how come we've never heard about this before? Because it's something so big that, if we haven't heard from it before, I hope we start to hear about it in future Trek going forward, because it definitely seems to be a thing that's big enough that I think it would happen, but it should have been mentioned before, and if not, it should be mentioned again because this would be something Starfleet would definitely frown upon, and they're always patrolling the neutral zone. Again, I think this made sense, but it doesn't make that much sense that we've never heard about this happening before.
Yeah, I think we've heard some. Obviously, there are some daredevils in the Federation who are like, "Yeah, I'm going to take this risk. I'm going to fly a shuttle through the neutral zone and do this massive obstacle course." Um, and I'm sure the Romulans too are aware that this is going on, and it annoys the living hell out of them.
There
That
could
they
be
think
Romulan races.
there could be. I think they might be a little bit more. Yeah, there could very well be some Romulan races
Yeah,
going on in there too. So, uh, who knows? Maybe we're gonna see an episode. Maybe somebody that Rutherford raced in his past is gonna show up and demand a rematch, even though he's not the same guy anymore. This could happen.
true.
So, yeah, why not? That's another callback idea. Um, One thing I wanted to kind of that was on my mind. This is not in the bad. This is I think it's a
The
little bit more
Gorn,
Gorn. Yeah, a little bit more of the Gorn.
hit it.
I have to say that when Rutherford loses it with the conspiracy people, when we see them show up, that's kind of an interesting, in the traditional Star Trek, talking about current events and how it is that we live in this reality where here in the 21st century where you have people who are obsessed with conspiracy theories and you have very smart people like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye and others who keep shooting them down. And like I kind of quoted Boimler saying this, you don't like the truth because it doesn't fit your worldview. I thought that was very, that was a nice shout out from Mike McGinnis and the rest of the writing team about a current event that's going on in this reality. But also, recruitment booths, that's how these recruiters for different jobs and stuff, they set up these things at colleges and stuff, and people walk by and it's like, yeah, I'd be kind of interested in this kind of job. And you give out a copy of your resume and they contact you or don't contact you. It's you know uh, like Mariner says, who the heck gets recruited at a recruiting booth anyway? And Tendy's like, I did. And it's like, you're not helping. Um, because I I'm sure you've gone through your share of recruiting booths and things, but it's it's the hope that there's the people running them are trying to sell you on a job, and it may not be the job you necessarily want. So they really try to play it up because they got to get your contact information. I thought that was interesting.
So one thing really liked, was the name of the ship that Alt Rutherford, tongue tied this morning, has. Is called Sampaguita. And so that is actually, I looked this up, it is a flower in the Philippines. And, it's a nod to the um, background of Eugene Cordero, the actor who voices Rutherford, who is from the Philippines. He's Philippine American. So I thought that was a nice touch by the writers.
Yeah, I thought that was too. That having something like that, and if people get interested, they can go look this up. It's an interesting factoid, and that yeah, I thought that was a good way to uh, bring that up, and I can't help but wonder if Eugene probably was mentioned that as, hey, can we name this ship after this? This is a cool name, and yeah, so they went with that. And it's I think there's been a vast attempt, especially on shows like Picard, to not keep reusing the same Western names you have for starships. Actually branch out and try to be more inclusive. I forget the name of actually what they called the ship Riker was commanding in the final season finale of season 1 of Picard, but it was named after a Middle Eastern explorer and
No
mathematician.
good.
So I apologize if anybody would like to write into us and tell us the name of that ship, the name of the person it was named after. We'd really appreciate it. We just kind of blanking on it this morning.
I mean, diversity should not only be in the captain's chair, but it should also be in the names of the ships. You're absolutely right. I mean, it doesn't need to be all Western based.
Right, exactly. It should be more inclusive of not just Western names. And I mean, occasionally on Star Trek we have seen or heard about starships that were named after people from other worlds in the Federation. Like, okay, there was an Excelsior class starship called the Gorkon, named after the Klingon Chancellor. There was another Federation vessel named the Sarek or the Serac or something.
The Sirac, I believe.
The Serac, and yeah, but okay, that's fictional. Why not there be um, more names from Asian culture? I mean, I know there was the starship Yamamoto, but that was blown up in an episode of season 2 of Next Generation, so maybe not the best example. But yeah, I mean, you could definitely try to have more inclusion, more names from different cultures around Earth. I mean, it's a beautiful, nice, big planet,
Yeah,
and it
that's
isn't
right.
just one group of people. It can be, you could talk about you could add other names. You could be more inclusive.
One thing very Gorn-esque that I mentioned at the start of the episode that I want to go back to is I love the reference of 7 years in a windowless room. And by the way, may Strange New Worlds go 7 seasons to be that lucky. But I loved it because when you think about it, I mean, yeah, they do have that big window in the back of the lower decks, but yeah, they're all windowless, tiny little alcoves.
Yeah. Um, Especially on the original series when, okay, we're in a spaceship, but we have no windows, or
Yeah.
we have one window and it's like way, way down in the back near the shuttle bay somewhere. Um, but yeah, it's nice to be able to have windows and be able to look outside, even if all you're looking out is space, endless space. It keeps you from going crazy, unless yeah, there's still something out there. You're not trapped in there. Um, it's also very
It's
nice to get off the spaceship and go down to the planet and get some fresh air.
There is I don't remember which university, but I think it might be in California. Um, they're creating, the thought is to create and build windowless dorm rooms, and instead of because they say you can maximize the efficiency of construction if you don't need to borrow with having an exterior window, and instead they would have like a screen where then you could like see an image of outside and just pretend that it's outside. And I was just like, it's the brainchild of some billionaire, and I'm just like, yeah, no.
Yeah, no, no, no.
Yeah.
Bad idea.
Very bad idea.
Very horrible idea. Let's not do that. Because
Well,
I can think of a couple. I can think of. Here's the first reason why I would be against putting my child in such a dorm room. What if there's a fire and the stairs are blocked or something? You know, they may have to climb out the window.
yeah.
You know, that's a really bad idea. So whoever invented that, you're going to Starbase 80, bud.
That's right. You know, it's right up there with you know, of terrible ideas. It's right up there with terrible, the worst of the terrible ideas. And so I think we should go to the segment of what we see for the future.
Yes.
Do you want to go first?
Oh, thank you. Yes, I will. Okay, so I think Mariner is going to be very tempted by Petra and her offer to leave Starfleet and go into independent archaeology. I think she's going to though discover this is not really for her. This kind of sense of capitalism, because as much as Mariner may not like Starfleet regulations, it's pretty obvious that she does not prefer this form of capitalism that Petra seems to might seem to cling to. I mean, Petra talks about not being violent, but theft can also be an act of violence. But that's here. That's a little bit edgier. I think Rutherford is going to discover more about his past. I think Tendi is going to also, you know, go through some changes here, and I think Boimler is going to keep trying to get more bold until, I don't know, he crosses the wrong Klingon, or he'll either earn that Klingon's respect or he'll get his hand handed to him after it's been chopped off of the bat'leth. But yeah, I think you know, I'm really excited about next week's episode. Chris?
So I am sort of on a roll lately because a couple weeks ago I said I thought we would see more about Rutherford's past, and we have. So I'm going to call that Tandy gets to go on her first away mission as a science officer. And so I'm not sure what's going to happen, but we're going to see her on an away mission. That's what I'm going to call. I'm in total agreement with you that we are going to see Petra again. And I'm going to call right now that I think in the final episode of the season, I'm getting ahead of myself, but there's going to be some misunderstanding where she's actually done something good, and Ransom's going to think that she screwed up, and there's going to be a strong disagreement, and she is going to go join Petra, and then Ransom's going to realize, crap, you know, I messed up. She actually did something good here. We'll try to go to apologize, and she's going to be like, you know, long gone, because we've seen Boimler leave. Boimler left at the end of season 1. Will she come back? Of course she will, but I think going into season 3, we will probably see her outside the ship. So I'm calling it the end of the current season will be her leaving the Cerritos because of a misunderstanding where she actually did something right, but Ransom will think that what she did was like terribly wrong. And I think that we will also see, I agree with you, Boimler getting a bit more brave, and I think he's going to get tossed in the brig again.
Yeah, it's. I think his destiny is the brig. That would be a great time, though. I think to bring in Grace Park as a recurring character, because if you remember Battlestar Galactica, her character kept ending up in the brig. So that would be kind of funny that they end up being cellmates.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah, I don't know what Grace Park is up to these days, but that would be kind of funny because I mean, certainly, Katie Sackhoff made the transition from BSG to Star Wars, and you know, why can't Grace come on over to Star Trek? You know, so before we go, I want to just make a quick mention about the passing of a legend of Star Trek, and that is the great Louise Fletcher, who passed away this Friday in her home in France. She, of course, is best known as the infamous Nurse Ratched from the film One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And to Star Trek fans, she is remembered as Kai Wynn, the recurring villain of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. She was very beloved by fans, family. Even though she played a lot of villains, she was herself a very wonderful and sweet person. And our thoughts go to her family. And but it's she was wonderful. So she will be missed. So, Chris, you want to talk where people can reach you?
Yes, indeed. And I want to put out a plug there for Monster Mania, which is happening next weekend, which is going to have not one, not two, but three characters from the Star Trek universe. We'll be having Admiral Vance from Star Trek Discovery, Dr. Soren from from Generations, and we will have the Borg Queen herself, Alice Creech. This will be held at the Hunt Valley Inn, which, for those of you who go to Farpoint and go to Shore Leave and go to Nostalgicon, you're all very familiar with. And so if you want to see... Oh, and sorry, I just remembered. I also forgot, and he probably would like it this way. Simple Taylor, Mr. Garrick, Andrew Robinson himself will be there. So that's 4 characters from the Star Trek universe who will be there. Monster Mania.
Yes.
Time and ability. Go attend Monster Mania, and you may find some pictures of Monster Mania and from other cons at my Instagram, Verde Cosplay. And so with that, I will wish all of you peace and long life.
Live long and prosper, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.